Revealed, my sister's shocking discovery of my 8M's secret wealth sparked a life-changing karma. Jake poured another cup of coffee, his gentle smile brightening the small cafe in Maplewood, Illinois. To the townsfolk, he was just a dedicated barista, known for his kindness and generous spirit. But behind this humble facade was a staggering truth: Jake had turned a tiny investment into an $8 million fortune. Yet, he remained an enigma, wrapped in silence as he focused on helping veterans and the struggling families of his community. At a lively family gathering, laughter and warmth radiated from the cozy living room, framed by the aroma of freshly baked pie. Everyone shared stories and told jokes, savoring their time together. Maria, Jake's older sister, rummaged through old tax papers, and stumbled upon bank statements that nearly made her drop the bundle. What? 8 million? Anguish washed over her. She couldn't believe it. Jake, why didn't you tell me? Her voice trembled, blending disbelief with betrayal. The laughter around them dimmed. You've been hiding your wealth, haven't you? She accused, her brows drawn tight. Jake's heart raced, his mind a tangled mess. I didn't want anyone to change how they saw me, he stammered, every word a stone in his throat. As Maria's hurt seeped into the room like a bitter chill, the warmth of their family bond took a sharp blow. She stood there, tears brimming in her eyes, her trust shattered like fragile glass. Before long, a storm swept through Maplewood, tearing at rooftops, uprooting trees, and displacing families. As neighbors gathered to help one another, Jake felt the weight of urgency descend upon him like a dark cloud. He couldn't let pride keep him silent. Yet, announcing his fortune felt like turning his back on the values he cherished. Taking a deep breath, he decided to help anonymously, pouring funds into recovery efforts while remaining in the shadows. His quiet generosity united the town, sparking a drive to rebuild and support each other. Jake watched as love and resilience blossomed among neighbors, a community coming together like never before. And yet, Maria felt the sting of betrayal deepening each day, unable to reconcile the brother she thought she knew with this hidden wealth. Amidst the chaos of recovery, Maria pieced together clues about the anonymous donations. Each revelation sent her heart racing and her feelings spiraling. Did she admire him or resent him? Was this brother she idolized truly a hero, or had he merely masked his shame? As the days wore on, she found herself oscillating between admiration and confusion, longing for reconciliation but feeling the weight of unanswered questions. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as the sun peeked through the gray clouds, signaling hope on the horizon, Maria found herself standing at a crossroads, longing to understand. Jake's anonymous donations were now the talk of the town, painting him not as a barista but a local hero. But his hidden truth felt like a chasm separating them. All she desired was to embrace him, yet felt consumed by doubt. Could their family bond withstand the storm of secrets? Would loyalty triumph over the shadows of hidden truths? The air crackled with anticipation, leaving everyone uncertain of what the future held. The morning sun warmed Maplewood, casting golden light across the streets that had been ravaged by the storm. Jake stood outside the cafe, watching local volunteers begin to sift through the debris, helping neighbors retrieve lost belongings. The distant sound of laughter mingled with the rustle of tarp flaps, a hopeful soundtrack to the recovery effort, but amidst the bustle, Jake was a storm within himself. He had done what he felt was right, but at what cost? Weighing heavy on his heart was the reality of his sister's betrayal, and now, the heroics of his secret contribution clouded the one connection that mattered most. Maria worked her way through the crowd, noticing the faces of friends and neighbors. Gratitude shone in their eyes as they recalled the anonymous benefactor who had made their recovery possible. It churned her stomach when she thought about how their gratitude masked her own hurt. As she bent to lend a hand lifting a fallen branch, her mind raced. Every piece of debris reminded her of how Jake's hidden life had crushed the expectations she had for their relationship. She wanted to confront him, to demand answers, but the thought of ruining the sweetness of this moment held her back. "Hey, Maria. Come on over." It was Mrs. Thompson, their childhood neighbor, waving her over. "Have you heard about that barista from the cafe? The one helping everyone?" Maria felt a rush of emotions, a mix of pride and hurt. "Yeah, I've heard some things," she replied lightly, forcing a smile. Mrs. Thompson continued, "Whoever it is, they're a real angel. Don't you think?" Maria nodded, the weight of her silence heavy. "Sure, they are." Later that afternoon, she found a quiet spot by the garden where she and Jake had spent many summers growing up. The peacefulness of the moment mirrored her turmoil. Dialing his number, she hesitated, heart racing. How could she bridge the gap between them? What could she say to make him understand? "Hey, Maria," Jake said, answering after a few rings. His voice was steady but laced with an undercurrent of anxiety. "Jake," she paused, searching for words that would not come. "We need to talk." "Is it about this, what they're saying in town?" he asked, his tension palpable even through the phone. "Yes. No, I can't keep pretending like this. I need to know why you felt you had to hide." A long silence stretched between them, filled with the weight of unsaid truths. "I thought I was doing the right thing," Jake finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I didn't want my success to change how people saw me or how they treated you." "And hiding it did what for you?" Maria asked, frustration bubbling beneath her carefully constructed calm. Jake inhaled sharply, and she could feel the distance between them, thick and suffocating. "I thought if I helped in secret, it might protect what we had. But it only pushed me away." Maria shouted, tears welling up as the dam finally broke. "You were so close to me, yet you built this wall." A tense silence hung heavy in the air. "Can we meet?" he asked, desperation creeping in. "Yeah," she replied quietly. "We need to talk. But this isn't over." As they arranged to meet later, Maria felt a flicker of hope. Maybe it was possible to untangle the knots that had formed between them, but as the day grew dim, all she could wonder was, would they heal together or fall further apart? Would their family emerge stronger, or was there too much left unsaid? The glow of the sunset reflected her uncertainties, casting long shadows that mirrored her heart. Jake paced in circles outside the cafe, his thoughts racing as the sun dipped lower in the sky. With every passing minute, dread mounted within him, the weight of Maria's words hanging heavy in the air. He couldn't shake the feeling that their once strong bond was unraveling, and he had played a major part in it. As twilight set in, he rubbed his palms together nervously. He knew this conversation would be crucial. It wasn't just about his secret, it was about rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. Maria deserved honesty, and he was ready to lay everything bare, even if it meant risking further pain. "Jake?" Maria's voice broke through his spiraling thoughts, echoing like a lighthouse in a fog. He turned to find her standing just a few feet away, her silhouette framed by the fading light. The familiar warmth of her presence chased the chill of fear from his heart. "Hey," he managed to say, his throat dry. "Thanks for coming." She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "I needed to," she replied softly, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. It was a simple gesture, but it sent his heart racing, reminding him of all the moments they had shared. "Let us sit," he suggested, motioning toward a nearby bench that cradled old carvings of their childhood initials. They sat down, silence stretching as they faced one another, each waiting for the other to break the ice. "Jake," Maria began, then hesitated, searching his eyes. "You really are the town's hero right now, but I can't shake this anger. The feeling that you've kept something so big from me. I wanted to protect you," he said, his voice trembling. "I was afraid that if you knew, it would change everything between us. But hiding it was the worst thing you could have done," she said, frustration rising again. "I felt like I didn't know you at all." Her words hit him hard. The truth stung, but he knew she deserved it. "Maria, Jake, let me finish," she interrupted, her eyes intense. "You're still my brother, and I want to understand you, but it feels like you're not even being yourself with me. Jake's heart sank. I know it seemed that way. I didn't want the money to define us. I thought if people didn't know, I could still just be the guy from Maplewood. Maria sighed, her expression softening slightly. But it isn't just about you. It's about us. We're family. We're supposed to share our lives, even the ugly parts. Her honesty stirred something deep inside him. I've messed up, he confessed, his voice thick with emotion. But I don't want to lose you, Maria. I want to be honest, to share all of me with you starting now. How can I trust you, Jake? She asked, her vulnerability cutting through the air. That he took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the truth in his stomach. I'll show you. No more secrets. You deserve better than that. So, about the money, he hesitated, the enormity of the secret looming over them like a dark storm cloud. If he told her now, it might shatter the fragile thread of hope they were hanging on to. I didn't just hide success, I was saving it for a bigger purpose. What do you mean? Maria leaned in, and he could see the flicker of curiosity mixed with caution in her eyes. Jake swallowed hard, heart pounding as he imagined the relief of finally sharing everything. I want to use it to help this town, to rebuild and support the families affected. I could never do that openly until now. Until we can be together in this. As he finished speaking, their surroundings fell away. The night engulfed them, a curtain of mystery hanging over what would unfold next. Would she understand his intentions? Would they be able to face the truth together, side by side? Jake Maria began again, but the intensity hung in the air. He could feel the ground shifting beneath them. What comes next? He dared to ask, uncertainty etching lines on his face as they stared into the unknown. Would this truth bridge the gap or widen it? Would it bring unity, or lead to more heartache? Maria's gaze faltered, and the weight of uncertainty hung thick between them. Jake wanted to reach out, to reassure her, but something held him back, fear, maybe. It was a tightrope walk of emotions, with every step feeling perilous. Jake, that sounds incredible, she finally said, but her voice quavered. But why couldn't you have told me sooner? We could have done this together. I could have helped you. He felt that piercing regret stab deep. I was scared you'd look at me differently. That you wouldn't see me as your brother anymore, but as this wealthy stranger. Her brows furrowed. But wealth doesn't change who you are. It should only give you the chance to be more of who you are. Why was it so hard for you to believe that? I don't know, he admitted, frustration creeping into his voice. Maybe I thought you'd think I was a fraud. Suddenly everyone in town believes in this hero image of me, but that's not really who I am. Jake, the hero doesn't have to be perfect, she insisted. You just need to be real. This facade, it's suffocating. He nodded, the confession tearing at his heart. You're right. I built this wall, hoping to protect us both, but it's just made everything worse. Tears glistened in her eyes, and that familiar knot in his throat tightened. He wanted to reach across the distance, to pull her close and make her understand the turmoil he felt. She deserved more than his tangled web of half-truths. What do you want to do? Maria asked, her voice now steady. How do we move forward from this? He looked around, the fading lights of the cafe reflecting in his mind. This town was where he grew up, where their childhood memories lived, and it was time to reclaim it, not just for himself, but for every person who had been impacted. I think we need to take it step by step, he said slowly. I'll start by unveiling the truth about the money. I can't keep hiding it. We can hold community meetings, seek input on how to best support those in need. Her eyes sparkled with a glimmer of hope. And I could help with that. We can talk to families, gather their stories, and build something meaningful together. Jake felt the warmth of her encouragement filling the air between them. Maybe, just maybe, they could take on the world side by side. Together. The word rolled off his tongue like nectar. But before he could lose himself in that moment, a chill washed over him. But if I do this, he warned, there will be backlash. People may turn against me for what they see as a betrayal at first. I've seen you embrace this community, Jake. They need to see your heart behind all of this. Your intent, she assured him. Maybe it'll take time, but if they know you're real, they'll come around. They'll back us. He nodded, feeling a surge of strength. Maybe the truth could unravel more than just secrets. Perhaps it could weave them back together instead. As they sat in that quiet embrace of night, hopeful visions dancing in their minds, they both knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. It would take courage. It would demand sacrifice. Will you take that leap with me? He asked, gazing into her eyes, watching the reflections of their dreams flicker there. She smiled a real smile, one that spread warmth like the dawn breaking. Always. Yet, as Jake felt the swell of resolution, something stirred within him again, an echo of the darkness he couldn't completely chase away. Just promise me one thing, he murmured. If it gets too much, promise you'll walk away. Her expression faltered, the weight of his words heavy. Why would you say that? I can't bear to watch you suffer because of my choices, he replied, his voice thick. What if this makes things worse? Just then, the cafe door swung open, a rush of noise pulling them out of their cocoon, leaving behind the intimate moment. What were they about to step into? Would the town's reaction be the key to healing, or would it threaten to pull them apart again? As the chatter faded into the night around them, Jake felt both exhilarated and terrified of the challenge ahead. Would they be able to transform their lives and their community, or would his secret weave a new narrative of despair? The air buzzed with anticipation as Jake and Maria exited the cafe, leaving behind the warmth of their hopeful bubble. The streets were alive with energy, laughter mixed with the clinking of bottles and the distant strains of music wafting from the nearby bar. It both thrilled him and sent a cold wave of dread crashing over his heart. What's the plan? Maria asked, her voice piercing through his swirling thoughts. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself as he glanced at the familiar faces, each of whom held a memory, good, bad, and everything in between. We need to gather everyone. The community hall should be empty this late, but I think we can still get the word out. If we act quickly, they'll listen. Act quickly? She echoed, eyebrows raised. You're really diving in headfirst, huh? Yeah, he sighed, knowing that the weight of it all rested on his shoulders. But they need to hear this. I need them to know who I am and why I'm here. As they walked, a few folks greeted them with half-hearted smiles, their voices tinged with curiosity. Jake noticed how their gazes flickered away, performing the social dance of politeness while questions lingered just below the surface. They didn't know him, not anymore. A chill gripped his chest. Jake, Maria said softly, catching up to match his pace, are you okay? You look overwhelmed. He chuckled humorlessly, shaking his head. I'm all over the place. One moment I feel like I can take on the world, and the next, I worry it's all going to come crashing down. That's part of being real, she reminded him. You're human. It's okay to feel scared. I just hope they can see it. Jake's voice dropped. What if they don't listen? Or worse, what if I lose them all over again? Then we take a step back and regroup. But one thing is clear, she pressed, we cannot let fear win. That's the only way we'll stay stuck. He looked at her then, really looked. Maria was the anchor he didn't know he needed. You're right. No more hiding. As they arrived at the community hall, the looming structure felt both intimidating and inviting, like a giant embracing old friends while challenging newcomers. Flickering lights offered warmth against the encroaching darkness, and the weight of their shared mission hung thick in the air. They pushed through the doors. Empty chairs lined the walls, a tableau of potential. The stage at the front was bare but needed only their words to fill the silence. Let us go, he said, determination settling in his gut. They climbed the few steps to the stage, the creaking wood beneath their feet echoing in the vastness of the room. He could almost hear his heartbeat, each thump vibrating with palpable tension. Jake. Maria leaned closer to him. What if they reject you? He ran a hand through his hair, uncertainty gnawing at him like a hungry animal. I'll cross that bridge when we get there. I can't keep living a lie anymore. Though the lights were dim, he felt his heart race as they waited. He could already envision their reactions, the murmurs spreading through the hall like wildfire. Then, he remembered Maria's words about being real. For better or worse, he was ready to be unguarded. Let us start with honesty, he whispered, just before the first few townsfolk trickled through the door, but would that be enough? As the room began to fill, he could see skepticism painted on some faces, and he wondered if the truth would tear them apart more than it would bring them together. Would the warmth of their bond thaw the cold of mistrust, or would it create chasms he couldn't bridge? Jake took a steadying breath, preparing to plunge into the unknown. It was a risk, a leap of faith he had to take. Are you ready? Maria asked, squeezing his hand tightly. Let us find out, he breathed, feeling both exhilarated and terrified, and just as they were about to speak, a familiar face stepped into view, one he hadn't expected. Would this unexpected presence shift the tides or sink them deeper into despair? Jake's heart dropped as the familiar face moved through the crowd. It was Emily, his sister, someone he hadn't seen in years. She looked just as he remembered, with curly hair spilling around her shoulders and an eyebrows kit of surprise painted across her face. But beneath those features lingered a storm of emotions that he couldn't decipher. Jake? She called out, voice shaky yet firm, immediately drawing everyone's attention. The murmurs in the hall faded as people turned to witness this unexpected reunion. What are you doing here? His voice stumbled out, hovering between joy and dread. The last thing he wanted was to unfold the layers of his past in front of her, especially at such a critical moment. I was looking for you. I heard you were back in town. I didn't know you were doing this. She gestured broadly to the community hall, her eyes darting around at everyone staring at them. I didn't want it to be like this, Jake said, his mind racing with regrets, worries, and the inevitability of their past crashing into the present. In that moment, he completely forgot about the crowd, and everything he was supposed to do became secondary. Maria took his hand tighter, squeezing it like a lifeline. All around them, the atmosphere shifted. Jake could feel the weight of their collective gaze, skepticism simmering just beneath it. Why don't we just talk? Emily's voice softened, almost pleading. You don't have to do this in front of everyone. No. Jake felt a surge of determination. I need to. They need to know what happened, why I'm back. He turned slightly, locking eyes with Maria, who gave him the slightest nod of encouragement. Okay. Emily said with a tiny frown, unsure of what to make of his conviction. But Jake, please, I don't want you to ruin. Emily, how can I ruin something I've already lost? The frustration spilled over, and he could feel the desperation in his chest. What do you mean? Her eyes widened in confusion. You never spoke about what happened. We've barely spoken at all. There was a crack in her armor as she stepped further towards the front, a mix of concern and yearning weaving together in her tone. The chairs shifted as more townsfolk filed in, murmurs of what's going on. Or that's his sister. Floated through the air, sharpening their focus on the unfolding drama. Can you give me a chance? Jake pressed. The truth was inching closer to the surface, ready to spill like a fresh wound. Something shifted in Emily's expression, a hint of understanding flashing across her face. Okay, let us both talk then. But, she hesitated, glancing at the audience, not here. We can't let this turn into something bigger. He looked back at Maria, who was watching closely, her brows knitted with concern. No, I can't do that, Jake replied. This is part of my truth, Emily. I have to let them in on it. A sudden loud crash broke the tension, making everyone jump. A stack of chairs tipped over nearby, drawing the spotlight away. All eyes turned to the commotion. Surprise and curiosity replaced the tension. Maybe we don't have to decide right now, Maria spoke softly, her voice cutting through the chaos. Let us take a moment and collect ourselves. Jake's eyes flicked to Emily, still grappling with the situation. But what if this moment ends up being all I've fought for? What if exposing everything now is the only way to heal? What if it all falls apart instead? Emily whispered back, a hint of fear creeping into her voice. They were caught between what could break them apart or bring them closer than ever. As the crowd buzzed, Jake could feel the stakes rising, threatening to engulf them. He could either break the dam now, risk his bond with Emily, and the community's trust, or hold back, potentially missing a chance for true connection. He took a deep breath, prepared to dive deeper, rearranging his words like puzzle pieces in his mind. Something in him screamed for honesty, for revelation. It's time to share, but I cannot do this alone. And then, just like that, he turned to face the expectant crowd, wondering if he could withstand the tide of truth washing over him, alongside the secrets he held so painfully tight. Would the truth unite them or shatter everything he dared to hope for? Jake felt the eyes of the crowd bore into him, that curious mix of surprise and intrigue washing over them. The silence grew heavy, each heartbeat echoing a sense of impending revelation. He could see the townspeople shift uncomfortably, some whispering amongst themselves, pondering what would come next. For a moment, the weight of his choice hazed his vision, but within that fog, a flicker of clarity emerged. This felt right. All right, he began, his voice steady but low. Here's the truth. I'm back because I owe it to myself, to all of you. The words hung in the air, pregnant with anticipation. As Jake met Emily's gaze, he could see the mix of hope and confusion entwined in her eyes. He took another deep breath. After everything that happened, everything that dragged me away from this place, I finally realized I can't run from my past anymore. With each word, he felt the tension bleed out of his body. They were like weights lifted from his shoulders, but his heart raced with the fear of how the community would react. He glanced at Maria, whose expression encouraged him to continue. Jake's mind drifted back, memories flooding him. A few years ago, I lost everything. My job, my sense of belonging, and it all stemmed from choices I made when I was lost. Gasps rippled through the audience, his admission more raw than he intended. I got involved with the wrong people, thinking I could quickly make a name for myself, and in the end, I destroyed what little I had. He paused, looking to Emily. And I ruined our relationship along with it. The crowd was silent, even the murmurs faded. He could see Emily's mouth open slightly, a quiet spell of shock gripping her. What I didn't expect was to find wealth I never knew existed. An inheritance from a distant relative. $8 million. The reaction was instant. Voices erupted, disbelief mingling with astonishment. A few people shook their heads, while others exchanged glances of intrigue, trying to reconcile the man they once knew with this new, nearly fantastical story. But there's a catch, he pressed on, urgency coloring his words. This money doesn't mean anything if I can't fix what I broke. I need to use it to make amends, to rebuild. I want to make things right with you, with this community. Emily's eyes widened. Jake, you have to be careful. With this kind of money, you could be, I know, he interrupted gently, but firmly. But I've been careless once. I won't be again. The goal isn't just to fix my mistakes but to prevent others from experiencing the same pain I caused. I want to create opportunities here, to help those who've struggled like I did. The murmurs returned, mixed emotions filling the room. Some faces showed skepticism, while others reflected hope. Could a single man and a broken bond mend a community? Jake stepped forward. I never expected to see you all again, let alone stand in front of you like this. But this is my chance to reconcile with everything I've lost, especially with you, Emily. He reached out, hoping she would understand the depth of his sincerity. You matter to me. I don't want the past to cloud our future. I want us to reconnect, to find a way forward together, starting now. Emily scanned his face, searching for the truth. A flicker of vulnerability played across her own uncertainty mingled with longing. Jake, if we do this, she trailed off, her voice wavering as she absorbed everything he'd said. Are you sure you can handle what comes next? The question hung in the air, laden with the weight of their history. Would his past embrace him or swallow him whole? As the crowd buzzed around them, Jake felt a lurking fear. He wanted to let them in, to share in his journey, but would they be ready for the truth that lay ahead? Could the scars of the past really be the foundation for healing and transformation? And with that, Jake stood, waiting for Emily's response, unsure if this was the turning point they needed or the branching path to an uncertain future. As Jake stood there, waiting for Emily's response, the world around him blurred. The din of the crowd faded into the background, leaving only the pounding of his heart in his ears. He watched her intently, hoping to see the flicker of recognition, the spark of understanding that would signal the beginning of their new chapter. Finally, Emily took a step back, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "I want to believe you, Jake. I really do, but it's hard." She cast a glance over her shoulder, taking in the faces of their old friends. "We've all been hurt, and it's going to take more than words to make us trust you again." Jake's heart sank at her words, but he nodded, comprehending the weight of her distrust. "I know. I don't expect you to take my word for it. But I'm ready to prove myself. We can rebuild the bridges I burned, but it's going to take time." "Time," she echoed softly, as if tasting the word. "Do you really think that will be enough?" Before Jake could answer, a voice broke through the crowd. "This is crazy." It was Mark, a guy Jake used to hang out with before everything fell apart. "You're telling us you just waltzed back into town with $8 million and suddenly want to play the savior?" Mark's skepticism rippled through the crowd like a wave. Heads nodded in agreement, and Jake felt their judgment wash over him. "I'm not asking for forgiveness without action," he said, pushing back against the swell of criticism. "I want to create a community center, a place where kids can have access to programs and resources that I never had. Help for those struggling with addiction the same way I did. I know I can't erase my past, but I can help write a better future." The crowd shifted slightly, some nodding, some crossing their arms. Emily made her way closer, folding her arms, still skeptical but possibly softening. "How do you plan to do that? You think throwing money at a problem is enough?" "No," Jake replied, his voice steadier now. "Money helps, sure, but it needs more than that. It needs the community's input, and a commitment from me to be present, to listen. I won't just drop a check and disappear. I promise I'll be here." A silence fell over the gathering again. The tension was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Jake could see Maria watching from the side, her hopeful expression reassuring him. Slowly, the whispers among the crowd morphed into a hesitant curiosity, a small flicker of potential hope igniting. "Let us say you actually do this," Emily said, her brow furrowing as if contemplating his resolve. "What's to stop you from running away again? It's part of your history, Jake." Jake stepped forward, his voice fierce but weary. "Because I found something more valuable than money while I was gone. I found the courage to confront who I used to be. I realized I'm not just here to pick up the pieces for myself, I want to fix what I've hurt outside of me. That's something I would never have understood if I hadn't walked through my darkness." He could see the weight of his words sink in. Emily's expression softened, though uncertainty still lingered. "Jake. Give me a chance, Emily. Just one chance to prove to you that I'm serious," he urged. The murmurs intensified again as if the townspeople were weighing their options, contemplating the wild mix of hope and doubt swirling around them. Jake felt his heart race. This was the moment that could define everything. "All right," Emily finally said, breaking the tension in the air. "But you need to show us all you can handle this, starting tomorrow." Before he had a chance to respond, a flicker of chaos erupted from the back of the crowd. "Hey! Get away from her!" a familiar voice cried. Jake's stomach dropped as he spun around to see a figure pushing through the crowd, fear rushing to the forefront of his mind. The crowd parted, revealing a younger man, anger etched on his face, eyes locked on the stage. "Jake!" he shouted, his voice echoing through the square, filled with challenge and hurt. "You can't just come back here and pretend everything's fine." Jake's mind raced. Who was this? And what could this stranger unleash from his past? What new chaos had he unwittingly invited back into his life? The anger in the young man's eyes was like a storm brewing on the horizon, threatening to crash down on the fragile hope Jake had just built. Jake's heart raced, his breath hitching in his chest as recognition hit him like a bolt of lightning. This was Noah, his younger brother. The one he hadn't seen in years, the one he'd left behind when everything fell apart. "Get back, Noah!" Jake called out, panic tightening his throat. "This isn't what it looks like." Noah's face flushed with raw emotion. "Not what it looks like. You waltz back into town after abandoning all of us, and suddenly you want to be some kind of hero? Where were you when we needed you?" The crowd fell silent, watching the confrontation unfold. It was an uninvited spectacle, and Jake could feel their eyes like daggers, judging him, waiting for answers. For a moment, he was lost in a tidal wave of guilt and regret. Memories of their childhood flashed through his mind, the laughter, the fights, the moments he missed after he left for a life he thought would be better. "Noah, please," Jake said desperately, taking a step closer, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I'm here now. I'm back to make things right. I'm not the same person I was." "Not the same person?" Noah laughed bitterly, shaking his head. "You disappeared when Mom got sick. While Emily and the others stayed, you ran off. And now you think money can patch over the years of pain?" Frustration burned in Jake's chest. "It's more than money, Noah. It's about making a difference. I want to open a space that helps people like us. People who are struggling. It's my chance to do something real." "No," Noah retorted, his voice sharp. "You want to feel good about yourself. You want forgiveness for the past when you haven't even faced it. How can you expect anyone to believe you?" "Because I've faced my demons," Jake shot back, a mix of anger and hurt flooding his voice as it cracked. "I've worked to change. I've seen what addiction does. I lived it. I don't want to just take from this community anymore. I want to give back." Noah's eyes softened for just a second, but then hardened again, like metal cooling after being molded. "Words won't cut it," he said. "You need to show us. All of us." Emily stepped forward, her expression gentle yet stern, creating a bridge between the brothers. "Noah, let us give him a chance. He can't change the past, but maybe he's right about wanting to help. We can't let fear hold us back from what could be a good thing." The crowd murmured again, this time dividing. Some were swayed by Emily's compassion, while others echoed Noah's skepticism. "I don't know if I can trust you," Noah admitted finally, his voice dropping. "But I'll give you one shot. Show me you can actually care." Jake felt a slight sense of relief but mixed with fear. "I promise you, I will." As Noah turned to leave, the tension in the air lingered. Jake watched his brother's retreating figure, his mind racing. There was so much to prove, not just to the town, but to Noah, to the people he'd hurt and abandoned. "Tomorrow then," Emily said softly, offering a tight smile. "We'll get to work on your big vision." Jake nodded, a firmness in his resolve. But deeper within him, worry gnawed at his stomach. Would he really be able to carry out the promise he made? As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the crowd, he felt the weight of expectations resting on his shoulders. Just before he turned to leave, a voice echoed from the depths of the crowd, shattering the fleeting moment of hope. "You think this is just about you? You're in over your head, Jake." His pulse quickened. He had another challenge to face, and he was running out of time. Would he find the strength to meet it head-on? As he stepped away from the stage, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that far more awaited him than he bargained for. Jake woke early the next morning. The golden light streaming through his bedroom window felt like a new beginning. Today was the day he faced the community, the day he put action behind his words, and the day he hoped to truly shift the narrative surrounding his return. As he dressed, he could still hear echoes of Noah's accusation from the night before. What if he truly was in over his head? There was so much to prove, not only to the people of Maplewood but to himself, and especially to his brother. The cafe, the smell of coffee filled the air, warm and inviting. Maria was already waiting, her presence wrapping him in a comforting embrace of support. "Ready for today?" she asked, her smile calm, but he could see the concern deep in her eyes. I'm as ready as I'll ever be, Jake replied, gripping the coffee cup tightly to ground himself. Today's the start of showing them I mean it. The first community meeting held in the local town hall was scheduled for tonight, and Jake knew he needed to prepare. As he sipped his coffee, Maria began brainstorming ways to approach the townspeople. Let us set the tone. People need to feel you're sincere, she advised. Share your journey, your struggles, people will connect with your honesty. By mid-afternoon, the anticipation in Jake's stomach turned to a mix of anxiety and hope. He practiced in front of the mirror, pouring out everything he wanted to say, replaying the conversation he so desperately wished could bridge the gap with Noah. When evening finally arrived, Jake stood in front of the community hall, now pulsing with energy. The familiar faces of his childhood neighbors appeared with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. He could hear the chatter rising as small groups formed, some discussing last night's revelations, others voicing doubts, and a few expressing reluctant support. Taking a deep breath, Jake climbed the steps to the stage, his heart hammering in his chest. Silence spread, the crowd turning their eyes to him, a sea of apprehension and optimism. It was now or never. Thank you all for being here tonight, he began, his voice steady and firm. I know I don't deserve your trust, One Haven T earned it. But I'm here to begin building that. He glanced around, seeing familiar faces watching intently, awaiting his next words. Jake shared everything he could, his past mistakes, struggles with addiction, and how he had lost sight of what truly mattered. As he laid bare the truth, the room remained tense, yet he felt the weight of their collective breath. Through the cracks in his voice, he opened up about his inheritance and why he wanted to use it not for himself, but as a stepping stone for their community. I don't want to be a stranger in my own hometown anymore, he said, emotion thickening his tone. I want to do everything I can to create a safe space for those who've faced what I have, and to help rebuild the lives that were torn apart. He caught Emily's gaze. She was listening intently, her supportive nod fueling his resolve. And I know this journey won't be easy, he continued, but I can't do it alone. I want to connect, reach out to each of you, to hear your stories, and to pool our ideas together. As he spoke, he noticed murmurs starting. Some people shifted forward, curiosity replacing skepticism. Even Noah was present, his eyes locked on Jake, shadows of uncertainty crossing his face. I have a vision for a community center, Jake explained with intention, a place for resources, for mentoring, for support. I want to ensure families can thrive together, share their burdens, find hope again just as this community did for me. He took a step closer, leaning into the hope hanging in the air like the fragrance of fresh paint. But I need you to help me shape it. You know the town best, we can build something truly meaningful together. A soft murmur traveled through the crowd. It was the sound of contemplation, curiosity, and even a hint of hope. Then a voice rose above the rest. And who's to say you won't just run away again if it gets hard? It was Mark, echoing the doubt that lingered. I can't promise it will be easy, Jake replied directly to him, but what I can do is show you. I'm committed to being here. And if there's any chance for me to make things right, I'll take it. More people began to speak up now, voices expressing concern but also a desire to see what could be forged from his determination. I'd like to help, said an older woman, a spirit of courage rising. We can start organizing fundraisers, things that get the whole community involved. Encouragement began to grow across the hall, the tension slowly shifting into supportive chatter. As people started raising their hands with ideas, invitations to help, Jake's heart swelled with gratitude. He glanced at Maria, whose radiant smile reassured him. They were in this together, and slowly but surely, the walls were starting to come down. When the meeting concluded, Jake stepped down from the stage, breathing profoundly, though exhilaration coursed through his veins. They had a long journey ahead, but tonight marked the first step towards healing. As he looked around, he spotted Noah lingering in the doorway, emotions flickering in his brother's eyes. Gathering himself, Jake approached him, words lodged in his throat. I'm sorry for everything, Jake said, words flowing out. I need you to know I'm here to stay. For you. For us. Noah met his gaze, vulnerability shining brightly. If you really mean that, Jake, it's going to take time. But I'll be here too if you let me. Jake felt the tension begin to ease, a shift already beginning. He smiled, relief washing over him. Together then, he responded, hope igniting like a spark. That night, in the center of Maplewood, beneath the blanket of stars, the community began to change. A shared vision of transformation spread among the townsfolk, reminding Jake that despite the shadows of his past, there was power in connection, hope in honesty, and strength in unity. This was just the beginning, and they would build together a bridge to healing for Jake, for Noah, and for their town. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss more exclusive stories like this one. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment below your feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.